Welcome to NTD News. I'm Kevin Hogan. Here are today's top stories. Senator Ted Cruz criticizing President Biden's policy in the Middle East. Did Biden embolden Hamas? And what does Cruz hope the administration will do? Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Senator Rand Paul issue fresh warnings over the Wuhan Institute of Virology. They say the lab is still up and running and is probably still conducting the same dangerous research on viruses that many suspect caused the CCP virus pandemic. The mothers of several people killed by police accuse Black Lives Matter leadership of getting rich off the deaths of their children. They say the organization hasn't done anything to help them or their families. A time to remember Memorial Day celebration in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Residents listened to the national anthem and God Bless America with trumpets sounding in memory of those locals who lost their lives in service to the nation. Tennis champion Naomi Osaka shocks fans and withdraws from a competition at the French Open. It comes after she missed the press conference after her first round win. Senator Ted Cruz says President Biden's policy in the Middle East is emboldening the terrorist group Hamas, and it's undoing the historic peace agreements that were signed just 9 months ago. NTD's Jessica Beatty has more.
Senator Ted Cruz criticized President Biden's policy in the Middle East Monday. Cruz said just 9 months ago, Israel and Arab nations were signing historic peace deals, but now there's war in the Middle East again.
What did Joe Biden do when he came back in? Ignored that law and sent hundreds of millions of dollars to the Palestinian Authority, and that emboldened Hamas. That was a big part of the reason these rockets started coming, is weakness invites attacks.
Cruz traveled to Israel Sunday to see the aftermath of its recent conflict with the terrorist group Hamas. He said Israel is the United States' strongest ally in the Middle East, and the alliance brings enormous military benefits.
And so I hope that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have the strength of character to tell the angry anti-Israel left in their party to tell them no, to tell them we're going to maintain our historic alliance and we're going to replenish Iron Dome.
Members of the squad have come under fire in recent days for their controversial anti-Israel comments on Twitter, as violence intensified before the ceasefire.
No way he got 80.
Former President Trump told Newsmax's Dick Morris Democracy Saturday that what's happened to Israel is one of the great injustices.
You know, if you look back 10 or 12 years ago, Israel was so protected by Congress. Congress loved Israel. Now, especially if you look at the House doesn't like Israel. The House is protective of anything other than Israel.
We reached out to the White House for comment, but haven't heard back yet. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
Many people now acknowledge that the CCP virus could have come out of the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Some Republicans are sounding the alarm that the lab is still a threat. Former U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Senator Rand Paul warned that the Wuhan Institute of Virology is still operating and that scientists there are probably doing the same dangerous gain-of-function research on viruses that many people now suspect produced the CCP virus pandemic. Mike Pompeo tells Fox News that the lab is still a threat. He says there is enormous evidence that the virus came out of the Chinese lab and that the lab works with the Chinese military. He says the CCP is hiding what they know about the origin of the virus and what type of research is really happening at the lab. Paul says he's concerned that the U.S. is paying for potentially dangerous research at the Wuhan lab. He tells Fox, "I'm very worried that this stuff still goes on and that the U.S. government's been funding it." Paul notes that Democrats and the mainstream media are now saying that the CCP virus could have come from the lab. Until recently, legacy media outlets called the lab origin hypothesis a conspiracy theory, and social media companies labeled it misinformation. Paul says there has been a sea change in the last few weeks. He tells Fox's Janine Pirro, anybody who mentioned the possibility that this virus came out of the Wuhan lab was dismissed as crazy right-wing kooks or conspiracy theorists, but now you have even MSNBC coming around. Some legacy media reporters now admit that they dismissed the lab theory because it came from Republicans. ABC reporter Jonathan Karl said on ABC News this week that the lab origin theory was dismissed because it came out of the Trump administration. New York Times reporter David Lionhart tells CNN that journalists dismiss the theory because of anti-Republican sentiment. Paul says he thinks more evidence is going to come out, pointing to the lab as the origin of the virus. Several mothers whose children were killed by police are accusing top members of Black Lives Matter. They say the group's leaders are getting rich off the deaths of their children and are doing nothing to help the families who lost loved ones.
Samaria Rice's 12-year-old son Tamir was shot and killed by police in Cleveland. She's denouncing the leaders of Black Lives Matter, or BLM. She tells the New York Post they're benefiting off of the blood of our loved ones, and they won't even talk to us. BLM's co-founder Patricia Kohlers is under fire for the apparent wealth she's recently gained, which many say is thanks to her role in BLM. Kohlers described herself as a trained Marxist and has praised mass murderer Mao Zedong. Reports say she's on a multi-million-dollar buying spree focused on exclusive real estate. Kohlers calls the reports a right-wing smear campaign. She says she didn't take the money from BLM. Kohlers has a book deal and a TV deal with Warner Brothers. She's also announced leading her leadership role in BLM. Lisa Simpson's son was killed in a Los Angeles Police Department incident involving an officer. She accuses Kohlers of stepping down to avoid responsibility. Simpson says BLM raised money for her son's funeral, but she never got it. The New York Post published a statement from Simpson and Palmer. They say BLM used the deaths of their children to get donations and movie deals, but left their families behind and broken. As violent crime spikes across the U.S., BLM's popularity is plummeting, and their calls to defund the police is now supported by just 18% of Americans.
The world's largest meat supplier, JBS Foods, says it was targeted by an organized cybersecurity attack. The firm says some of its servers in Australia and North America were impacted. The company says it took immediate action by suspending all impacted systems and notifying relevant authorities. JBS is a Brazilian firm that has its North American headquarters located in Colorado. It says it is not aware of any employee, customer, or supplier data that was hacked, but JBS says it'll take time to resolve the incident, which will delay business. Industry publishing website Beef Central says the firm's meat processing operations were paralyzed by the cyber attack, but that it was not related to animal or environmental activism. The Texas governor says he will veto funding for the state government a day after House Democrats stage a walkout. The lawmakers left to block an election overhaul bill. Governor Greg Abbott said he will veto an article of the state budget that funds the legislative branch. It means lawmakers wouldn't get paid. That's after Democrats walked out of the state house a day before in an attempt to temporarily stop the bill. As a result, there weren't enough members present to do a final election bill vote. Democratic House member Jean Wu says the funding cut would punish working-class office staff, maintenance, and other support services. The governor plans to hold a special session for the election bill. The Nevada Senate passed a bill on Memorial Day seeking to make Nevada the first state to hold a presidential primary in 2024. The Nevada House has already passed the bill. The legislation still needs the governor's signature to become law. The Associated Press reports that the changes are due to a lobbying effort by former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid. The bill would also change Nevada's presidential nominating contest from a caucus to a primary. Reid and other Democrats say that it will make it easier for voters to participate. Proponents of the legislation say Nevada is more representative of America than either Iowa or New Hampshire, the states that typically hold the first nomination contests. The national political parties would have to approve the change to allow Nevada to hold the first primary. Over 1 million ballots have been counted in the 2020 election audit in Arizona's largest county. That's out of nearly 2.1 million ballots cast overall, and the audit team is quickening its progress. Over 200,000 ballots have been counted just since May 27th, and auditors expect to be done by the end of June. Chairwoman of the Arizona GOP says the progress is in large part due to more volunteer counters in place. She also says attacks by those who disagree with holding the audit have never stopped, and she expects them to increase toward the end of the count. The audit was ordered by the Republican-controlled Arizona Senate in April, and it includes reviewing the ballots and the machines used in the election. Native American tribes from the United States and Canada converged on Oklahoma for 5 days of Indian relay horse racing. The tradition brought Native Americans together from different states. Competitors race 3 different horses bareback around a 1-mile track. They jump off one horse and onto another between laps. The horses also get painted in traditional style. Organizers called this year's event the biggest in the known history of Indian relay races in terms of tribes, people, and vendors. About 40 tribes competed for $140,000 in prize money. The setting in Oklahoma fit the event since nearly 10% of the state's population is made up of Native Americans. On top of that, a recent Supreme Court ruling reaffirmed that about half the state's territory falls under Native American jurisdiction. Residents of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania gathered on Memorial Day to honor America's fallen heroes. They recognized locals who lost their lives in wars over the last century. Let's take a look.
On Memorial Day, residents of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania gathered in remembrance of local veterans who lost their lives in service to the nation.
God bless America.
Kendall Conrad performed the national anthem after a trumpeter played taps, the military funeral ceremony song. Jenny Pakinowski was an E4 medic supporting convoys in the Sunni Triangle in Iraq. She shares her experience in the war.
What I learned in Iraq was that there were a lot of poor kids fighting poor kids. And I found that to be very upsetting. And I found that working in the villages with the children, they didn't have access to resources like healthcare, shoes, food. So part of the thing I'm proud of about going over there is being there for the children and trying to help them navigate a war-torn country that they lived in.
After the military, Pakinowski said that she would have been just another statistic of suicide or drug overdose. She even struggled with near homelessness. But she started writing with her fellow veterans and even started her own organization for veterans to share their stories. This helped her pull through. An Air Force veteran who was stationed in Sicily in regards to nuclear weapons during the Cold War tells how the military benefited him.
It's always good experience. You meet other people from other cultures. You may have the opportunity to travel to different places, different countries, different states that you might not have done in the past, prior to the military. It's all good as far as I'm concerned. I'm sorry I got out. I should have made it a career.
A banner displayed the 35 courageous souls from the local area who fought in the Vietnam War and lost their lives. Over 140 banners featuring 1,400 Lehigh Valley residents will go on display up through July 4th.
People celebrated Memorial Day in ceremonies all across California, including on an aircraft carrier. NTD's David Lamb brings us more.
Hundreds attended the ceremony aboard the USS Hornet. The ship was commissioned in November 1943. Speakers talked about the ship's legacy and their roles as veterans. The USS Hornet was awarded 11 battle stars for service in World War II. It also served in the Vietnam War and even recovered the Apollo spaceflight landings.
Here on the ship, we learned and we improved. The strength of the military today in all branches oversees any other country. We're the strongest nation in the world.
Fee is best friends with a fellow Navy veteran, Lewis Ross, who joined the Navy when he was 17 years old. Ross recommends young people join the Navy because he learned a lot in his 30 years of experience.
The Navy taught me electronics, taught me how to repair, taught me how to troubleshoot, taught me how to stay with a project. And that's the best thing I can say about the Navy. Is I was told, you need to finish a job, and by God, I'm never going to go back on my word, and I'm always going to do my best to finish a job.
Memorial Day is pretty significant for us. One of our responsibilities is that we help family members come to terms with the deaths of their loved ones and to walk them through that process and to help them through that.
Other parts of California are also paying tribute to veterans this Memorial Day.
Hey! Fire!
Today is a very special day for America. In Los Gatos Memorial Park, you could hear patriotic and inspiring music while veterans were recalling their military experiences. And not only were people celebrating the fallen heroes, but also memorializing all the ones that sacrificed and risked their lives to defend the country.
You got to honor the heroes, the fallen, that never came home. Hundreds and thousands of our sons and daughters that never came home, so it's very hard.
We remember that they left us their legacy to guide us, to strive for. And on this and each Memorial Day, I miss my son, as I'm sure every family misses their soldiers as well.
One veteran recently volunteered for the California State Guard, and he is 74 years old.
We support the 129th Air Rescue Wing out at Moffett.
Yeah.
So it's fun being active again, if you will.
NTD asked one family what type of values a soldier should have.
I would say that they love America and they're grateful for the opportunity that America affords all of us. And they're givers, people that are willing to give for everyone else.
Yeah. Bravery, self-sacrifice, commitment, and honor.
Memorial Day was declared a national holiday in 1971 and was originally called Decoration Day. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
A group of people in Jupiter, Florida, just north of West Palm Beach, held a unique Memorial Day parade. Rather than marching through the streets, they took to their boats and set sail.
Nice boats, good weather, but people here had other reasons to come together.
It's very, very important. It is a sacred day to remember everyone who gave their lives for the freedom of this country that's being taken advantage of right now, actually.
With that in mind, the people enjoyed their day.
The parade? Beautiful. Beautiful day. Beautiful boats, beautiful weather, beautiful people. Great to be in Florida.
The attendees expressed loyalty not only to their country.
Very exciting to see all of the support for Trump, of course. So, yeah, very happy to be here.
Well, we come here, we're Trump supporters, we love him, and we want him back.
The parade was on its way to Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence as the final stop. Supporters say they hope the procession will send a positive message.
Remind people what it's about, and it's really about the people who gave their lives for us to live free. I think probably half of the country have forgotten. I think the liberal half has forgotten about the meaning of the holiday. Yes, absolutely.
Jupiter, Florida's activities on Monday, concluding an entire weekend dedicated to Memorial Day.
Oklahoma is renaming part of a state highway after former President Donald Trump. Republican Governor Kevin Stitt signed a bill confirming the move on Friday. The new bill designates a section of State Highway 287 as President Donald J. Trump Highway. The stretch goes from Boise City to the Texas border in Cimarron County. The new measure calls for signs to be put up along the highway. They'll be paid for by the bill's authors. The move also gets rid of a state requirement that a person has to have been dead for no less than 3 years before a bridge or highway can be renamed in their honor. A small business lobbying group sues Major League Baseball and the league's players' union. That's removing the MLB All-Star Game out of Georgia earlier this year. After baseball officials announced that they were moving the game to Colorado, more than 8,000 hotel reservations were canceled in the Atlanta area. County officials estimated the move would cost the local economy some $100 million. The Job Creators Network filed the lawsuit and is asking the MLB and the union to compensate Georgia businesses that won't see revenue from the game. MLB officials said they moved the game because of Georgia's election integrity law. The law is described by supporters as a way to bolster election security, but critics say it is racist and restrictive. Within 4 days this month, one small county at the U.S.-Mexico border caught thousands of illegal immigrants, which ended up being more than the county's entire population. A rancher shared with us his fear and concerns. Find out more in just a minute. The 2021 hurricane season starts on Tuesday, and experts say it looks like it may be a busy year. The season runs through November 30th and covers areas including the Atlantic Ocean, Gulf of Mexico, and the Caribbean Sea. The National Weather Service defines a hurricane as a tropical cyclone with maximum sustained winds of 74 miles per hour or higher. Colorado State University's tropical meteorology team is predicting an above-average season. They're forecasting 17 named storms, including 8 hurricanes. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Climate Prediction Center is forecasting a 60% chance for an above-normal season. Living on a ranch is an American dream for some, keeping to yourself and working hard. But down at the U.S.-Mexico border, some ranchers are getting unexpected visits from trespassers. NTD's Miguel Moreno has more on that.
Cole Hill has a wife, 3 kids under 10, and a ranch in Kinney County, Texas.
We've lived here for about 6 years now.
Over the years, immigrants have illegally crossed the border and trespassed onto his ranch. But he said the problem worsened this year and shared about an encounter in February.
My wife called me and said, "Hey, you need to get home right now. We've got a bunch of illegals here at the house." These men had surrounded my house. They were banging on my back door. They were banging on my front door simultaneously. They were looking through our windows in my daughter's room, in my little boy's room.
Hill made it back and found a man on the front porch. Others went into hiding. Eventually, he managed to get them off his property. Border Patrol, he says, arrived an hour later.
It's a very scary situation knowing that we're this far out. We shouldn't have any trespassers on our property. We are way out in the middle of nowhere.
Others are reporting similar experiences, including property damage dealt by trespassers. Kinney County was one of the first counties to declare a local disaster last month over the border crisis. Their Border Patrol sector caught more illegal border crossers than the county's population in a span of 4 days this month. That's over 3,400. Hill blames the Biden administration's stance on immigration for the surge in border crossings and the impact it's having on Texans.
So as far as what we can do, I would say we just keep trying to do things the right way and get the people who we elected into the positions to secure us and our border and provide American citizens with a safe way of life.
He says he reaches out to elected officials as often as he can in hopes of finding a solution to this problem.
Authorities in Texas believe they've stopped a mass shooting. 28-year-old Coleman Thomas Blevins of Caryville was arrested on Friday for allegedly planning a mass casualty event at a local Walmart. The Kerr County Sheriff's Department worked together with multiple agencies for a week, finally intercepting and foiling the plan for the attack. The search of Blevins' home turned up firearms, ammunition, and radical propaganda. Blevins is being held on a $250,000 bond on a warrant for a terroristic threat to create public fear or serious bodily injury. Kerr County investigators believe that the FBI may also seek federal charges in the case. And still to come, Argentina halts beef exports to tame rising beef prices inside the country. But not everyone is happy about the move. All that and more on NTD News.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm gonna pass the savings directly on to you. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Hi folks, Joe Namath here, and if you're on Medicare, this is important. You're now entitled to eliminate copays and get dental care, dentures, eyeglasses, prescription coverage, in-home aids, unlimited transportation, and home-delivered meals, all at no additional cost. Plus, your zip code may have coverage with the Give Back benefit that adds money back to your Social Security check every month.
I call to get dental, transportation, meals, and the Give Back benefit.
With this virus situation, I called to get everything I'm entitled to. I couldn't believe I was missing out on so many benefits.
With the uncertainty of the virus, you need to get everything you're entitled to. Millions of people have trusted the Medicare Coverage Helpline. You can too. Call now. It's free.
Call 1-800-764-1930. That's 1-800-764-1930 now.
Japan's Naomi Osaka stunned the French Open on Monday when she announced she's withdrawing from the tournament. Osaka says she's been suffering from depression for almost 3 years.
Naomi Osaka said on Monday she was withdrawing from the French Open and wrote on Twitter that she would be taking some time away from the tennis court. A stunning move by the four-time Grand Slam champion, who also said she had, quote, suffered long bouts of depression. Her decision came a day after she was fined $15,000 for not holding a press conference after winning her first-round match. Officials also threatened to expel her from the French Open and future majors if she continued to refuse to attend news conferences after her matches. But on Monday, the world number 2 decided to take matters into her own hands to end the standoff, saying in a post on Twitter, quote, "This isn't a situation I ever imagined or intended when I posted a few days ago. I think now the best thing for the tournament, the other players, and my well-being is that I withdraw so that everyone can get back to focusing on the tennis going on in Paris." Osaka, one of the biggest names in women's sports, went on to say she had suffered from depression since the U.S. Open in 2018, which she won by beating Serena Williams in a controversial match. The French Tennis Federation, organizers of the tournament, called Osaka's withdrawal unfortunate. Osaka closed her statement by saying, quote, "I'm going to take some time away from the court now, but when the time is right, I really want to work with the tour to discuss ways we can make things better for the players, press, and fans."
Search crews say they've recovered human remains from a Tennessee plane crash site. A small private jet went down into the state's Perry Priest Lake on Saturday. The landing killed all 7 passengers on board. Crews also located both engines and a large part of the plane's fuselage. The Rutherford County Medical Examiner's Office is working with the families to officially identify the deceased. Christian Diet Guru Gwen Lara and her husband, actor Joe Lara, are among the dead. The National Transportation Safety Board is investigating the cause of the crash. Argentina was once the world's 5th largest beef exporter. Now the country's government is restricting beef shipments abroad to contain runaway inflation. They blame it on high demand from their biggest customer, China.
In Argentina, grilling beef on the barbecue is a human right. But now red meat eaters have to reduce their intake and change their diet.
We have barbecue once in a while, but now we are combining it with other cuts to replace the traditional barbecue. Point of the shoulder, rump tail, pork butt.
This is because of an over 60% surge in beef prices last year. According to a report by Argentina's Meat Industry Chamber, the country's per capita beef consumption plunged to a 100-year low in April.
Many people bought cuts that are more expensive. Now I'm seeing that they're asking me if we have another option, something a little more accessible, because the majority of people buy for the family. So they are trying to buy cuts that look good, but are at a more accessible price from what they were having before.
Many factors are driving up prices: rising feeding costs, a shortage of slaughterhouse workers, and high demand from China. Since 2018, China has been ramping up meat imports to offset declines in its hog herd due to African swine fever. Beijing recently suspended some beef imports from its number 3 supplier, Australia. It was due to diplomatic tensions. On May 17th, Argentina halted shipments of beef for 30 days, as annual inflation approaches 50%. But farmers protested the ban immediately with a halt on local livestock trading. They claim most of the exports are older cows that Argentines don't consume domestically.
The measure, analyzed coldly, is that if there is more meat, the price will drop because the supply is increasing. It is not the meat that we consume. It shouldn't be.
Argentina's ban is expected to shake up global meat markets and cause buyers in China to turn to Brazil and the U.S. U.S. beef exports to China hit a monthly record in March. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the U.S. sold over 16,000 tons of beef to China.
Up next, Malaysia prepares for the start of a strict 2-week lockdown. CCP virus cases in the country have soared recently, surpassing India's cases per capita. China relaxing its 2-child policy. Couples now can have up to 3 children. Stay tuned to find out how Chinese residents react. Malaysia's Prime Minister on Monday announced an additional $9.7 billion stimulus package ahead of stricter lockdown measures to start this week, meant to curb the spread of the CCP virus or coronavirus.
Malaysia's beginning a strict 2-week lockdown starting on Tuesday, and the country saw panic buying at supermarkets ahead of its start as the daily COVID-19 cases per capita there soar past India's. Malaysian Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin announced a $9.7 billion emergency aid package the day before, aiming to boost healthcare capacity and give moratoriums on loans, grants for small businesses, and subsidies for salaries. Malaysia's economy was on the path to recovery in the first quarter, then infections began to spike. Major automakers like Toyota and Honda announced Tuesday they would temporarily halt production in Malaysia due to the new lockdown, which will only allow essential manufacturing and the service sector to continue operations. Countries like Thailand and Vietnam had won praise for containing earlier waves of the virus. However, Thailand has seen its COVID-19 death toll rise tenfold over the past 2 months, while Vietnamese officials detected a more contagious combination of the British and Indian variants over the weekend.
China is relaxing its 2-child policy, and now couples can have 3 children. This comes as the country is facing a sharp decline in birth rates, but Chinese residents are having mixed reactions. NTD's Tiffany Meyer brings us the details.
Beijing's latest policy shift has prompted a range of reactions from Chinese residents. One tourist couple in Shanghai said they'd only have more kids if conditions allow for it.
Nowadays, young people have to buy a house. This amount of pressure is already huge, and then you have to consider the cost of the child's education, etc. I think this sort of policy will be difficult to implement.
Right. And we think the quality of education for our children might be an even bigger issue for having a second or third child.
On Chinese social media platform Weibo, internet users are hotly discussing the new policy. A new hashtag has already attracted over 400 million views. It reads, "What do you think of the 3-child policy?" The reactions are mixed. Some are positive, but the majority seem less than favorable. One person posted that they support the policy, adding that as long as you're a Chinese person, you should support the state's 3-child policy. Others are questioning the cost that comes with raising 3 children. One internet user said, "How many people nowadays can afford to raise 3 children?" Another person wrote, "I'm the second child in my family and I'm 35 years old. I'm a girl and my brother is 10 years older than me. After I was born, the government fined us to the point of almost bankrupting my family. Can the state return the fine to us with interest? I can't even afford to raise my single child right now. The cost of raising 1 child plus housing loans is over $1,500 per month. And me and my husband are working extremely hard to make money. We also have to take care of our elderly parents who have ailments. Where's the support from the government?" The Chinese regime said it would provide supportive measures, but hasn't given any details. Another internet user complained about the policy shift. She wrote, "What was the regime thinking when it only allowed 1 child? Those of us that were born in the 80s are just miserable. We grew up lonely, without any siblings. And now one couple has to raise 4 elders in the family. Now the government allows us to have a 3rd child, so that means 2 people have to take care of 4 elderly parents and 3 children. Can you let us survive?" And it's not just Chinese residents who are questioning the policy.
Unless the government introduces real incentives, so providing special allowances to couples who have 3 children, like reduction for transportation and other incentives, I don't think that Chinese couples are going to have more kids in the coming years.
The policy is an effort to save the country's declining birth rate. In 2016, the Chinese Communist Party dropped its 1-child policy, allowing couples to have 2 children. But it doesn't appear to have worked. Census data shows that 12 million babies were born in China last year. That's an 18% decline from the year before. It remains to be seen how effective the 3-child policy will be going forward. South China reported a sudden surge in CCP virus or coronavirus cases on Monday. Authorities reported around 20 new local cases in Guangdong province. NTD cannot independently verify the number, but it may be underreported as the Chinese regime has a history of covering up virus cases. Chinese state-owned media reported that the authorities found most of the officially reported cases in Guangzhou. That's the capital city of Guangdong province, and also the most populous city in South China. Among the patients in the province, authorities found both a UK variant and the Indian variant. Both can spread faster than the other strains found before. So far, local authorities have placed 2 neighborhoods in Guangzhou under lockdown. Only one person from each household is allowed to go out to get groceries each day. But most shops there are reportedly closed. Only some supermarkets are still open. Because of the surge in cases, airports in the region had to cancel about 500 flights as of Monday morning. All travelers taking long-distance buses to other provinces have to show a negative virus test from within 72 hours. This aims to reduce trips between provinces. Local residents can't be seen crowding on the streets to undergo mass testing.
Just ahead, Britain will host the G7 summit from June 11th through June 13th. The countries are expected to discuss a range of topics, including Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko. And Italians are commemorating famed poet Dante on the 700th anniversary of his passing. Local stores are selling copies of his beloved Divine Comedy in multiple languages. All that and more here on NTD News.
If you're like most of us, you're probably getting fed up with the nonsense that's going on in the banking system. Did you know that top U.S. banks have recently amended their depositor terms and conditions to include the words bank failure and what's required of you in 24 hours if, or should I say when, it happens? Don't get blindsided by your bank. Call GSI Exchange today to pick up your complimentary copy of the Bank Failure Survival Guide at 866-424-2382. We'll also send you the required format to file with your bank within 24 hours of their failure, which is now required by the top banks to avoid freezing of your funds. Yes, the top banks can now freeze your money. The world is in a strange place, and banks are constantly changing the rules. So stay on top of the current events that really matter by calling GSI Exchange and requesting your free guide at 866-424-2382.
Navigating a world of economic madness, you need to have the right guide. What do today's decisions mean for your tomorrow? We ask why, what's the alternative? Uncover the deeper reasons and the hidden influences, and highlight the real opportunities for profit. At NTD Business, we connect the dots for you. Good evening, thanks for joining us.
Leaders from the world's group of 7 nations will gather in Cornwall, England in June. The summit will mark the group's first in-person meeting in 2 years. Here's NTD's Andrew Thomas with the story.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson will host the G7 meeting at the Carbis Bay Hotel. The building overlooks a picturesque coastline and is surrounded by rural scenery. Johnson himself has close ties to Carbis Bay, as his paternal grandmother's family are from the area. The 47th G7 summit will be the first since 2019. It comes after a planned meeting in the U.S. was cancelled last year due to the pandemic. Representatives from Britain, the US, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, and Japan will be joined by European Union leaders Ursula von der Leyen and Charles Michel. Australia, India, South Korea, and South Africa have also been invited to attend. French President Emmanuel Macron has suggested inviting the Belarusian opposition. Britain said there were no plans to invite more participants at the moment, but added the government's behavior would be discussed. Western countries are keen to show their support for opponents of Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko. That's after he ordered a fighter jet to force down a passenger plane in Minsk on May 23rd. Authorities then arrested passenger and dissident journalist Roman Protasevich. A range of other issues could be up for debate at the summit, including the ongoing pandemic, China, and former G7 member, Russia. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Electric bikes can help people get from A to B without breaking a sweat. One London company specializes in making and selling kits to convert even the most ancient piece of pedal power to electric. NTD's Neil Woodrow went to try it out.
Electric bikes have been gaining popularity since the 1990s. A British company called Switch can help you convert your personal two wheels into an e-bike. The London-based tech startup is the creative force behind the Switch e-bike kit. We visited the company to learn more about their product and story from their CEO, co-founder and inventor of their e-bike kit.
The idea came about because I used to sell all manner of electric bike kits, and I was looking for one kit that would work on any bike. I looked for a few years, didn't find it, and then had the epiphany that if I could fit all of the components of an electric bike into one little power pack that fit onto the handlebars like this, it would work on any bike. And here we are. So,
after the original idea in 2017, they launched a successful crowdfunding campaign.
2 years later, we re-engineered the kit to make it significantly smaller and lighter.
They cut its weight by half to less than 1.5 kilograms, keeping its power at 250 kilowatts, the legal limit for electric bikes. On average, it will achieve 16 miles per hour and 31 miles distance on a single charge. The kit acts as an aid to your own cycling power. Turning the power up will assist your pedalling more. Oliver says it's a very simple routine to fit the kit.
Pretty much anyone can do it themselves at home. You only need two tools, a spanner and an Allen key.
First, you lose the original wheel. The new powered switch wheel is tightened on. The wheel is ordered to match the original size. Then the handlebar bracket is fixed where the power pack will be fitted. The power wheel is connected and the power pack fitted in place, and then the wheel is powered. Sales of the e-bike kit have been going well.
Well, in 2020 we helped over 20,000 new customers turn their bikes into electric switch bikes, and we're forecasting at least 30,000 this year in 2021.
I asked Montague if the pandemic has helped his business.
The cycling market is growing extremely fast. I'm sure that lockdown helped to kickstart some behaviour and get more people cycling, but we believe this is only the start of a cycling revolution, and we're forecasting significant further growth in the next 10 years.
He says his turnover has grown exponentially over the last 3 years. The kit's standard retail price starts at £1,000, about half that of your average good quality electric bike. So, does this kit fit any bike?
If your bike has a wheel and handlebars, the switch kit will fit.
Even a penny farthing?
Even a penny farthing, yes. Here you have it, a switch penny farthing.
Wow, but I'm in a suit.
Okay, good point. I have just the thing for you.
So now we've learned all about the Switch e-bike, I'm going to ride one. Neil Woodrow, NTD News, London.
This year marks the 700th anniversary of Dante's death. Fans across Italy are starting multiple events to commemorate the famous and enduring poet.
A well-worn copy of the Divine Comedy in her hand, every day at dusk she joins the reading around Dante's tomb to honor the great medieval poet. Dante died here in Ravenna, Italy in 1321. As travel resumes, stores nearby are housing copies of the Divine Comedy in 60 languages for foreign tourists.
It always fascinated me. I always liked it, even when I was at school. And what they've decided to do here in Ravenna immediately captivated me. It started in September last year, and it goes on. They are thinking of doing it forever. At least they'll do it until next September, and I will be here.
The Divine Comedy depicts the journey through hell, purgatory, and heaven. Dante's verses on the laws of good and evil remain symbolic prophecies and eternal themes for mankind. The organizer believes reading is the best way to honor Dante, but it is only part of the year-long commemoration of Dante's 700th anniversary. This exhibition at the San Domenico Museum in Forlì brings together 300 pieces of art from all over the world. They include illustrations, books, and paintings that influenced Dante and ones that he inspired. According to the museum's director, it's no surprise that Dante continues to fascinate people through the ages.
Dante speaks of salvation and pardon, things very fundamental to human life. For this reason, art couldn't do other than return an infinite number of times to Dante and his themes. He took history, mostly of his time, but not only of his time, and gave it eternal life.
The museum put on the exhibition in conjunction with the Uffizi Gallery in Florence, and it will run until July 11th.
Coming up, the first international team arrives in Japan for pre-Tokyo Olympics training. But as they get to work, they'll be required to take daily virus tests. Stay tuned to find out more. In the age of emails and text messages, it's rare to receive a handwritten letter in the post. But the tradition of putting a pen to paper has an enduring appeal. We'll hear more from Jane Worrell, who found out how the simple act of writing a letter can change people's lives.
After learning that her friend Brian was diagnosed with bowel cancer, Alison offered to write him letters to cheer him up.
I thought, oh God, what have I done? I've offered to write letters to a man who's got cancer, and I said they'd be funny, and what's funny about cancer? And but I thought, well, he's got cancer, all I've got to do is write a letter.
The letters kept Brian going throughout his treatments. He used to save them for when he had chemotherapy.
When Alison's letter arrived, if I'd been on my own that day, that really changed the day, because suddenly I had something to hold, something to open, you know, something to really connect with. I really didn't expect Alison to really keep her part of the bargain and write the letter. You know, those letters went on for 2.5 years, so she had to continually find new material, and I didn't write back, so it wasn't a pen pal arrangement here.
But Alison found beauty in putting pen to paper.
He really got to know me much quicker and in a far different way than perhaps if we just met in a pub for a drink. And I think that he got to know me in a more real way. So he really found out what I was about. And I think that's what letters allow people to be. You can really be your true self.
Brian recovered from cancer and they became best friends. They started a charity, From Me to You, that encourages people to write letters to friends and family who are suffering with cancer. People can also anonymously donate a letter.
That a lot of people don't know what to say or what to do when somebody's diagnosed with cancer. And for this, it's a way that you can easily get over yourself and sort of do it. Even if it's just a card to say, I'm thinking of you, or a postcard to say that, the recipient knows that at that point you were in their mind. It was almost like she was journaling and I was the privileged person who got to read them.
They say to keep it simple and from the heart.
Just don't mention it, just talk about the things that we've all got in common. And remember that it's the real mundane things that actually are the things that connect us all together.
Brian and Alison say the hardest part of starting to write a letter is the opening sentence, but once you've got going, the words will flow. Jane Worrell, NTD News, London.
Australia's softball squad arrived in Tokyo for a pre-Olympic camp on Tuesday. They're the first national team to go to Japan for training since the games were postponed.
The first National Olympics team to arrive in Japan since the games were postponed touched down on Tuesday. Australia's softball squad waved to the media before making their way to a nearly 2-month training camp in central Japan. Everyone on their team and their coaching staff has been vaccinated, and officials say they'll be required to take a COVID-19 test every day of their stay. Before they left home, Australia's Olympic team leader, Ian Chesterman, said the squad was comfortable with Japan's protocols to protect them and locals.
And I think that these athletes as well know that they have to take great responsibility for their own behaviour as well. They're committed to do that. They're committed to not only look after themselves, but do the right thing by the Japanese population as well, and be ready for the Games.
Meanwhile, Japan is battling a fourth wave of infections, with 10 regions, including Tokyo, under a state of emergency until near the end of this month. In a recent poll published by local media, a majority of Japanese people surveyed were against holding the Games as planned. As for Australia's softball team, they're scheduled to play their opening game on July 21st against the host country, Japan.
In our health segment today, we'll look at 12 small tweaks to your lifestyle that can have a big impact on keeping a healthy weight.
Welcome to Strong Mind and Body. I'm Gina Marie. The average person gains between 1 and 2 pounds every year. Of course, eating healthy and exercising regularly can help to prevent this sneaky weight gain. But here are 12 little things that may be making you gain fat. Although that number seems small, that could equal an extra 10 to 20 pounds per decade. Number 1, eating quickly. In today's world, people are busy and tend to eat their meals quickly. Unfortunately, it might be making you gain fat. Studies show that people who eat their meals quickly are more likely to be overweight or obese. Number 2, not drinking enough water. Nearly a fourth of Americans aged 2 and over don't drink water daily. This can make you thirsty. Interestingly, thirst may be mistaken as a sign of hunger or food cravings by the body. Number 3, being too social. Having a social life is of course important. However, being too social might be making you gain fat. Social situations often involve food or alcohol, which can easily add unwanted calories to your diet. Number 4, sitting too long. In Western countries, the average adult sits for 9 to 11 hours per day. Studies show that people who sit longer are more likely to be overweight. Make sure you exercise a few times per week. Number 5, not getting enough sleep. Over a third of Americans don't get enough sleep. Unfortunately, a lack of sleep is strongly linked to weight gain. Number 6, not having time to relax. Many people lead busy lives and never have time for themselves. It seems that the stress associated with this makes people unconsciously crave unhealthy comfort foods to make them feel better. Meditation is a great alternative for dealing with stress. Number 7, eating from large plates and bowls. The size of your plates and bowls could have a significant impact on your waistline. This happens because larger plates can make a serving of food look smaller than it is. Simply switching to smaller tableware may help you eat less food without feeling hungry. Number 8, eating in front of the TV. People often eat while watching TV or browsing the internet. However, eating while distracted could make you eat more food. While you are eating, aim to remove all distractions and focus solely on your meal. Number 9, drinking your calories. Drinking fruit juices and soft drinks might be making you gain fat. Your brain does not register calories from beverages the same way it registers calories from foods. Get your calories from whole foods rather than beverages. Number 10, not eating enough protein. A lack of protein in your diet might be making you gain fat. This important nutrient can help you stay fuller for longer while eating less food. Try eating more protein-rich foods like eggs, meats, fish, tofu, and lentils. Number 11, not eating enough fiber. A lack of fiber in your diet could be making you gain fat. This is because fiber helps control your appetite to keep you fuller for longer. You can increase your fiber intake by eating more vegetables, especially beans and legumes. Number 12, taking the elevator instead of the stairs. If you take the elevator instead of the stairs at work, you are missing out on an easy workout. By following just a few of the tips in this video, you can make sure you'll be eating healthily and exercising properly in order to keep that fat at bay.
And that's all for now. Catch us again tonight at 6:30 Eastern. In New York City, I'm Kevin Hogan.
have a new channel. Subscribe to us on YouTube at NTD News. Get the highlights of our news broadcast and the most important headlines that we curate especially for you.
Don't let YouTube decide what information you get. That's your choice. YouTube is deleting our videos and cuts you off from a source of honest reporting. Make sure you don't lose access to NTD's news content, and take a quick moment to subscribe to our newsletter so no matter what happens here, you'll keep your access to a trustworthy news source.